To the Tracy Take here on another Tuesday night doing our week 5 predictions. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun episode. But before we get into that, if this is your first time joining, welcome. Hit that subscribe button so you can see when we create new content or go live for any new shows or for our predictions. Also, like this video and share this video with your friends and family. And Ryan, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Super fun week. We are now 4 weeks in. We've had a full month, done our Thursday night football prediction between the Indianapolis Colts and the Broncos. That should be coming out tomorrow morning. Check that video out on our channel. And now Ryan and I, we're going to get into the other 15 games that are going to be going on week 5. But before we get into that, let's do a quick update. So Ryan and I, we actually tied last week with our picks. We both went 9-7, which is good for me. I got lucky because Ryan had the lead, and then luckily my 49ers picked it out, and it came out with a victory. But both 9-7. I have won the other 3 weeks, so we were 3-0-1. And overall, Ryan, you're one game below 500. You're 31-32-1 for the season. I've been a little bit luckier. I'm at 39-24-1. And so now moving on to week 5. You know, I was thinking about it. What is a good, like at the end, like we pick every single game. What is a good, like a respectable, pick 'em? Like I was even thinking like 60%. I think if you can get 60%, I feel like that's pretty decent, right?
I was going to say, if you can go above 500, especially this year where the gap between the playoff teams and the not playoff teams seems very small. To me, there's really only a few teams in the NFL that are really pushovers, and that has not always been the case. And so for me,
that's a good point.
I would say above 500, 60%. I think if you're hitting 60%, that's a good record.
Yeah, I think 60% because 500, that means you just get half the games right every single week. But if you're 60%, or I was even thinking like 2/3, like 67%, 2/3 of the game. But even then, that's tough. So just to even think, there's 16 games a week. I'm not the best at math, but that's about 10, going 10-6 on average every single week, 11-5 ish. Yeah, 10-6, 11-5 every single week on average. Which I don't know. I mean, that seems tough. That seems really tough. But especially too what you said. Now, also on the flip side of that, like a dominant team, like Philadelphia is the only undefeated team left, but I could definitely see them they definitely have some flaws. They're not super dominant, but I don't know, it's definitely something to monitor. I would love, I would love to have a 20 game plus in the win category by the end of the season. I think that would be, I would be happy with that. I don't know if that'd be 60%, but I don't know. I think that'd be pretty good. But let's get into it. As I said, we both have already had our picks for the Thursday night football game. Ryan and I, we do a specific Thursday night football analysis every single week. That video is going to be coming out tomorrow. Check that out. Thursday nights between the Indianapolis Colts and the Denver Broncos. I'm sure it's going to be a thrilling game between two teams that should be really but are not for some odd reason. But let's go into the first game. Let's head over to London for the first game between the New York Giants and the Green Bay Packers. The Packers have shocked me a little bit. And maybe I didn't think about it. Maybe because I was so focused on Aaron Rodgers, Matt LaFleur, and how great they've been over the past 5-6 years. And the team definitely is struggling. They are 3-1, and they're going up against another 3-1 New York Giants team. I don't think that they're going to be an issue for the Packers. I think the Packers are going to win. But I do have some concerns because this is definitely a different Packers team. This is not the explosive team that we're used to seeing.
I agree and disagree. Right now, I think the Packers are struggling. I think they're a young team, pretty much all new weapons. I know Randall Cobb and Aaron Rodgers played together before, but I want to say this is his first or second season back. Randall Cobb is also 31. And then you have Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, who are both rookies who were drafted to come in and try to replace Devontae Adams as a whole, not just one individually. And so I just think it's taking them a minute to kind of get on the same page. They really should have beat New England by a touchdown. But Romeo Doubs dropped a touchdown pass. They made a mistake at the end of the first half and gave the Patriots a pick six. There were mistakes there that I just don't think you normally see, and I just think it's because the Packers are slightly out of sync at the moment. One of the things that really terrifies me is right now, I think that offense is really one-dimensional. You have Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, and Robert Tonyan as like the receiving group. And so far, they have not had as big of an impact on games as Packers passing games have in the past. It's the run game. Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, to me, that's a extremely good duo, and I think that they're going to run the offense through them, and then the passing game will catch up by the end of the year.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. I think another thing to shout out as well for the Packers is the defense. The defense has been playing stellar, and they've been playing stellar over the past couple of years. I think that they just haven't been recognized as much because the offense has been awesome. Devontae Adams has been one of the best receivers in the league. Aaron Rodgers has been best quarterback in the league. And so, but now we're really seeing the effects because they've had to play really well, over these past couple of games for them to go 3-1. I think that they're going to continue to play well on the defensive side of the ball, also maybe on the offensive side of the ball as well, going up against a New York Giants team that is also 3-1, but they don't have Tyrod Taylor because of concussions, and that's their backup quarterback. Daniel Jones might be forced to play unless they bring in a third stringer or someone from the practice squad.
They signed
Daniel Jones
today.
Who do they sign? I mean, he's not going to be good. I mean, Daniel Jones.
AJ McCarron, I think, maybe.
Not maybe. Yeah, but even if he's a go, that's a much weaker option than Daniel Jones. But that shows Daniel Jones has a bum ankle. So for me, I just think, and then also too, we talk about one-dimensional. The Giants' offense is one-dimensional because it's everything that is successful runs through Saquon Barkley. Their defense isn't bad overall.
Well, actually, Daniel Jones was their leading rusher for the first 2 weeks. Just from scrambles alone, like a little Josh Allen effect, I think.
Maybe, yeah, but still, like they don't really have too many receiver threats that are going to scare anybody. I think the Packers win this one fairly easily, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, another game that I don't think should be too much of a shock. I think I saw on DraftKings the spread is 14 points in favor of Buffalo, but Pittsburgh's going to Buffalo. Kenny Pickett's going to be kind of thrown into the den of lions, trial by fire here, going up against Buffalo. And yeah, I don't think there's too much really. I mean, Buffalo's going to win this one.
Yeah, it's the worst place to have your first NFL start.
Yeah, especially too. Also, I know he just got thrown into the game, and his last pick was a Hail Mary, but he had 3 picks in a half. Or Jets,
half, 3/4.
Yeah. So as I said, the third pick is kind of a whatever because it was a Hail Mary desperation. But yeah, this is not going to be good for the Steelers. I think at this point. Go ahead.
I was going to say the only thing I will say in favor of Pittsburgh is Jordan Poyer is now out. I think for the remainder of the season. And Micah Hyde was already out for the remainder of the season. And then their secondary is banged up very bad. So George Pickens, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Pat Freiermuth should have fantastic matchups on the outside. Whether they'll be able to take advantage of that or not is another thing to be seen because – frankly, that offensive line is terrible, and I have no idea how they're going to block Von Miller, Jordan Phillips, and Tremaine Edmonds. So that'll be really interesting to see. But like you said, I think Buffalo just completely outpaces them in this game.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything about Jordan Poyer being out for the season. Did he get hurt?
Yeah, I heard he got hurt. at the end of the Ravens game on that interception?
I'm not seeing anything, especially when I type in his name.
Oh, here. Bills safety Jordan Poyer send message after X-ray results.
Yeah, I'm just not seeing anything as of right now.
To the X-ray room.
Let's see.
We'll find out tomorrow, I guess, in the injury report. But he went straight into the X-ray room right after the game ended, and they got the interception.
Yeah, but that can mean so much, though.
Yeah.
So, but either way, though, I still think that the Bills are going to win this one. I also think that they're just going to outscore. I don't think Pittsburgh hasn't had any more than, well, technically 23 points because that's how many points they had against beating the Bengals. But outside of that, I don't think they've put up more than 20 points in a game this entire season.
In 60 minutes.
Yeah. So, Bills are going to win that one. Moving on to the next one. This is the first game that we disagree on, actually. And so this is a tough one for me. I went back and forth, but it's the game is Los Angeles Chargers at the Cleveland Elves. And I think that this is going to be a good game. It's going to be close, and I think for the wrong reasons. Neither team's really healthy. Myles Garrett for the Browns is going to be out for a couple of weeks, and they obviously don't have Deshaun Watson. And then the Chargers have an array of injuries. They lost their star left tackle, Rashawn Slater, for the whole season. Nick Bosa is still out for 8 to 10. Joey Bosa, is still out for 8 to 10 weeks, and that was from 2 weeks ago. Keenan Allen is going to be iffy. He's still dealing with a nagging hamstring injury. Justin Herbert's still banged up. And on top of that, still, of course, Austin Eckler had a great game last week, but that was against the Texans, who a lot of teams have had great weeks against. They haven't really produced too much, especially in the running game. And while on both offensive or defensively, and the Browns running offense is still one of the best in the league with the Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt combo. So this one for me is going to be tough. It just kind of, for me, it went down to, I think, who's going to win in the trenches. And I still think, even without Myles Garrett, I still think the Browns are going to on both sides of the ball. They're definitely going to win it on the offensive side of the ball. So I'm just leaning towards the Browns. I think it's going to be something similar to kind of what the Jets game, but in this case, they're not going to blow it. And it's going to be 31-24 type game.
Yeah. So I went with the Chargers. This one I may change just kind of depending on the game time injury report and who's active and inactive. But I like the Chargers in this one, even though Joey Bosa's out. They still have Khalil Mack. That secondary has been pretty good. And even though Justin Herbert is playing slightly banged up, I really think he's the best quarterback in this game.
Well, and that's fair. And even if he's a little banged up, that more actually, I would say the injury around him make that injury a little bit more significant. Because imagine like if he was still a little banged up playing with bruised ribs, but everyone else was healthy, I think he could work around it. But now if Keenan Allen doesn't go, now Mike Williams, who I think is kind of, they paid him a lot, but I think he's, for me, has leaned a little bit more to like a boomer bust kind of guy in a game.
Yeah, he's going to catch 3 balls for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns, or
he's going to catch
1 ball for 8 yards. Like that's it.
Yeah. He's definitely their deep threat guy. I also think, if I'm not mistaken, I need to go back and double check, but then some of their role player receivers are also hurt. I think like Guyton, I think, is also hurt, banged up as well. Yeah. I need to double check. But it's just so tough, and the Chargers, they, especially on the defensive side of the ball, for me, when it came down to the running game, because the Browns are so run heavy, and even at home, of course, they were going up against the Steelers, but Jacoby Brissett had a decent game against the Steelers at home. Prime time, it was a shortened week, but he has a connection with Amari Cooper. He has a connection with David Njoku. And with how well they run the ball, that's only going to open up the passing plays as well. So it's going to be interesting to watch. I believe the Browns could win, but I could also see you winning this game as well. So it's going to be very tough. Moving on to a game we were going to talk about this one. This is the next one. It's going to be the Chicago Bears at the Minnesota Vikings. We both had the Vikings winning, but I want to start off with the Bears first. I was absolutely flabbergasted at the stats that we saw for Justin Fields. Now, this is just throwing the ball, and I don't think it has everything to say about his quarterback capabilities, even though some people might disagree and might say that it is. But through 4 games this year, he has only thrown for 471 yards. That is just a little bit over that's less than 125 yards per game passing. The leading receiver for the Bears is Darnell Mooney with 8 catches for 121 yards. I believe Tyreek Hill, I need to go back and double check, in the Baltimore game had more than that just in the second half. This offense, and I need to watch more of the Bears maybe to come up with a better understanding, but I kind of want to see your point on it. But this Bears offense is absolutely abysmal. And I don't think it's Fields' fault, all to say, because clearly doesn't have the receiving help around him. When David Montgomery, who I think is actually is a good running back, but he just has had some injuries the past couple seasons that has affected his production. He didn't play last week. He got hurt in the first drive, I believe, against the Texans on week 3. So, and you just love Khalil Herbert, but it's just an interesting time here. And the Vikings, who I think can be inconsistent, for me, this is just I think this is such an easy win for the Vikings. I think that they're going to be able to destroy that defense, and at the same time, the Bears aren't going to be putting up more than 20 points against these guys.
I don't even know if the Bears are going to be able to score 2 offensive touchdowns in this game.
Maybe, yeah.
For me, I don't know.
The Saints put up 25 against the Vikings, and the Saints offense is arguably just as worse. So, I can see them scoring 2 touchdowns. I could see them put up maybe 17 points, but I don't see how the Vikings are going to lose this game to the Bears.
No, especially when the Bears, I think, are going to struggle to stop the run. I think Justin Jefferson is going to have another 11 catch, 180-yard day. It's just going to be, to me, a clinic for the Vikings. They're just going to be able to go out there and show the complete lack of talent on Chicago. Especially this is going to be in a dome. I will say one of the things, I don't know, it could have made Justin Fields' stats worse, but week 1 was a monsoon. Week 2, they played Green Bay, and they really had to they got behind early, so they really had to throw into that defense.
Yeah, but week 3 though, they played against the Texans, and I think he only had 120 passing yards. Yeah, and that was a fine day. To my knowledge, that was a fine day. And as I said, I don't think it's as much. Some of it's maybe Justin Fields and maybe he's still growing, but then also too, it's when Darnell Mooney and Equanimous St. Brown. I'm sure I butchered. Equimenius, yes, that was my second guess. Are your top 2 receivers? That you're not giving him the opportunity for much success. If he was putting up those numbers, and let's say he was in the same Jalen Hurts, and he's putting the same numbers, but he has AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, and then he has the running game to go along with Philadelphia. He's only putting up 470 yards through 4 games. Yeah, okay, then I would be concerned, because you have the opportunity. In front of you, and you're butchering it. But now here against the Bears, or not here against the Bears, but with the Bears, you're like this team just is not good. Yeah, they're just not good at all. And yet they've won 2 games. They're in the playoff hunt, 4 games of the season. Yeah. So,
anyways, we spent way too much time talking about this game because Minnesota is going to win. That's my pick'em game of the week. My easy pick of the week. So we'll see if it actually comes to fruition this time. So, by the way, my easy pick of the week, I'm over 2.
That's fair. That's fair. Can you make your easy pick of the week Falcons versus Buccaneers? We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
You should.
Yeah.
You should. But let's go to your team first. The New England Patriots. They're hosting Lions. We actually disagree on this one. Is this our first disagreement? No.
No.
No, it's not.
LA was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, what is going to? The Braves won the division. Shout out.
Sweet.
Back to football. The key factor for me on this, and this is where I could potentially change my pick, is who all is playing. If Mac Jones, I would be surprised if he does, but if he comes back and plays, okay, that's another point in the favor of the Patriots, maybe swaying my decision.
Yeah.
If Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Swift, and DJ Chark all play, that is 3 major points for the Lions, in my opinion. Because one thing, too, that I have found out in having Jared Goff on my Dynasty Fantasy League is these Lions can put up a lot of points. They have a lot of weapons. This Lions offense is legit. They put up 45. This just shows how bad the Seahawks defense is. They put up 45 points last week against the Seattle. They didn't have those 3 just mentioned. And DJ Chark isn't even their number 1. I wouldn't even say he's their number 3 receiver. But this Lions offense is legit, and the New England's defense doesn't entirely scare me at all to hinder the Lions from kind of doing whatever they want. And at the same time, and this is correct me if I'm wrong, the New England offense, especially if Mac Jones doesn't play, but that doesn't really scare me too much either, because I feel like if there is a strength on the what has been a strength on the Lions defense has been their front 4. They actually have improved the passing, have improved the front line with adding Aiden Hutchinson to that side, where I think they might be able to help stop the run just a little bit against that New England defense, that New England offense.
Yeah, so that for me was the deciding factor. I think New England is just going to be able to control the game. I think.
But does that also include if Bailey Zappi plays? Because I think Brian Hoyer's going to officially be out because he has a concussion. Even if Mac Jones play, how effective
Bailey
is he going to be?
is starting, I will potentially reconsider. But I don't think Detroit's defense is very good. Yeah, and for me, Seattle was able to run all over that defense, and the Packers knew New England was going to run last week. I mean, and they really, for the large majority of that game, could not stop the Patriots running the football. And for me, I think if you can wear down a defense like that, Detroit really should, their defensive front really shouldn't be a match. I also think New England matches up better with Detroit's wide receivers than I think they're getting credit for, because a lot of their production, granted, Amon-Ra St. Brown was out and DJ Chark was out, but TJ Hawkinson, the tight end over the middle, Patriots, the deepest position on their roster is the safety position. Especially Kyle Duggar and Adrian Phillips are really good at covering tight ends. And I just think New England is going to be able to kind of do what they did to Jared Goff in that Super Bowl and just kind of stifle him a little bit, make him have to get off his first and second reads and do that. And so I just think New England will win this. This is a must-win game for New England. If they go 1-4, pretty much close off the books. Yeah.
I don't know, but you say the same thing about the Lions, where they're also 1-3 as well. So this is kind of a must-win game for them.
Nobody was expecting them to be any good this year. They've already exceeded expectations, to be honest.
Fair, but if all those guys play, though, yes, you mentioned them being able to cover T.J. Hawkinson, but then you have Ross St. Brown, you have Josh Reynolds, you have Khalif Randall, who are is their 3 receiver set. If DJ Chark comes back, he's our deep threat guy. So he's going to be another option. And so now you have to cover all those guys. And then if DeAndre Swift is healthy, you still have to cover him. And if not, Jamal Williams is actually a good running back as well. He's not as he's not as explosive as DeAndre Swift, but he is still a really good running back. He had a great game last week in Seattle. So for me, that's where the number of weapons that Detroit has, yes, maybe they can take out TJ Hawkinson. And you know what? If I think the Lions would probably take that. Let's say their entire receiving core is set, but it's like, all right, you want to take out our receiver up the middle, then we're going to burn you with our slot guys out on the edges, or then we're going to absolutely just run the ball down your throat, or we're going to be able to do check down passes to DeAndre Swift. So I think the Lions offense has more versatility. And yes, I agree. The defense isn't particularly strong. But I think I can see this being just like a lot of the other Lions games. I think I could absolutely see this being a shootout. And if it gets into a shootout, I favor the Lions so much more than the Patriots.
Yeah, so, that's fair.
It's going to be a good game. Both teams are very intriguing because they both play, I think, totally different games, and I really like. Yeah. I really like when that scenario happens.
This is like the power puncher versus the versus the boxer, like the technique boxer matchup. Yeah. It is a really good matchup. I think Detroit hits some of our weaknesses. I think they do have a better pass rush than run defense. I think they also have a really strong offensive line. So we'll see.
This offense, this Lions team, I'm definitely looking forward to at the end of the season and then talking about what their offseason moves are going to be. Because if they can improve this defense, look out, man, because they can put up, and even think too about some of the teams that, well, just the amount of points that they have put up against. Now, I would need to go back and look statistically at how they did, how some of the teams that they're playing against have done overall throughout the season. Because like Washington, they put up 36, put up 35 against Philadelphia, put up 24 against Minnesota. Should have won that game, didn't convert on fourth down, and then Minnesota went down and scored a touchdown. And then just put up 45 against a very weak Seattle defense. So I don't know if that's too much to write home about, but still, you still put up 45 points against a professional NFL team. Top 32 defenses in the nation last time I checked. So even if that's awful, but
Alabama, Georgia last year might have had them beat.
No, don't give me that crap. No. These pro offenses or these pro defenses compared to the college defense, it's not even the same. It's not even the same. Yes, Georgia's defense was really good, but they would have not done well against an NFL offense.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. But anyways, moving on though, that could be a good game. Really looking forward to it. Moving on to the next one. And this to me is my number one candidate on games I might switch throughout the week, but it's Seattle versus the New Orleans Saints. And neither teams are good. Seattle's actually tied for the division lead, just along with everyone else in the NFC West. And the Saints suck. And so it's a very interesting game.
Injured too.
Say it again.
They're very injured too.
Very injured. Jameis Winston, Michael Thomas, and Alvin Kamara did not play last week in London against the Minnesota Vikings. Losing Michael Thomas, losing Alvin Kamara is their number one. They need him to come back. If Jameis Winston doesn't come back, I don't think that's a major loss overall because it's not like he was having a great season. It is. I would maybe prefer him over Andy Dalton just because of his versatility. But losing Michael Thomas is a big deal. Chris Olave has definitely emerged now as their number two. He is having a really good rookie season. Caught a touchdown last week. He had a great game the week before against Carolina. So continue to see him be emerging. I could see him having a big game over a very weak Seahawks secondary. And then Seattle is one thing that's interesting to me about Seattle, especially going up against this game, which is they're definitely a weak. They're a Minnesota light type team. They have a stud receiver. They have a weak offensive line. They have a decent running game. They have a number two receiver that is pretty good. And then they have a quarterback. Kirk Cousins is probably a little bit better than Geno Smith.
He's a lot better than Geno Smith.
Well, Geno Smith does provide some versatility. Kirk Cousins, I think, can be a little bit inconsistent. Maybe this is going to be some gaff take, but I don't know. Kirk Cousins. Okay, I take that back. No, as I'm thinking about
it, I was going to say, you're like Kirk Cousins was good enough to reset the quarterback market when he went to Minnesota from Washington.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
I take that back. Hopefully, we have no one watching this right now as they're laughing at me say that. So, but Geno Smith though has had a solid season statistically so far, and I think this team they can put up some points. I think they would be able to put up some points against New Orleans, and the issue is going to be: is New Orleans going to be able to kind of keep up with them? Are they going to be able to put up a 25 points again against the Seahawks defense? And I don't know if they're going to have that firepower. That being said, though, I think that they will. I also think that this defense is going to be able to kind of stymie Seattle just a little bit. I think Seattle has been kind of I think they've had some success against some teams, especially defensively. Now that they're going up against a much better defensive team, I think that they're going to struggle a little bit on the road in the Superdome. And so I think New Orleans is going to win this one. But as I said, this is definitely going to vary to me, and I could see myself changing this one as the week goes on, depending on what the injuries are.
Yeah. No, I agree. For me, Seattle is possibly the worst team in the league. And I think the only reason that New Orleans doesn't win this game is just because they're so injured on offense that they just can't seem to make plays. So I don't think I'm likely to switch this one, because even then, a lot of New Orleans injuries are on the offensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, they're still relatively healthy. They still have Cam Jordan, Marshawn Lattimore, and Cast. So I like the Saints in this one. When both offenses suck, I think you'd have to go with the better defense.
Yeah. No, well, so that's where I don't know if the Seahawks offense sucks. I think their defense sucks. But I don't know, because you still have DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. That's there. You just still have Noah Fant as their tight end. Even I don't think he's had too much of an impact. They haven't had a horrible. They have Rashad Penny and Kenneth Walker doing a definitely running back tandem, or running back by committee between the two of them. And so you have some solid weapons. Yes, Geno Smith. I take back what I said earlier about comparing him and Kirk Cousins are in similar boats. I totally take that back. But all in all, though, he hasn't been playing poorly throughout the season. So
no, I just think there's a limit on how good the Seahawks offense can be with him taking snaps there.
He's definitely a stopgap. He's definitely a stopgap quarterback for sure. Yeah. Oh, no, he's not going to come in and be their franchise QB. Absolutely not. So he had to beat out Drew Lock for that role, which isn't really saying too much. So but I think that's going to be a good game. I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye on that one for sure. And so what is the next game that we have up here?
Miami Dolphins going to the New York Jets, an AFC East matchup.
Yep. Yeah. So, well, shoot, now this one could be a candidate that I switched. Obviously, we know Tua is not coming back this week.
Yeah.
And for me, I have the Jets actually winning this game, because another actually key issue and one injury that we're going to really need to watch is going to actually be Xavier Howard. He left last week's game. He had a groin hamstring combo injury, which was definitely hindering him during the game as he gave up a long touchdown, and then he just came out completely. So we're going to see if he plays this game. But if he doesn't, you have a very, very young secondary going up against a pretty solid receiving core of the New York Jets. So I'm leaning towards the Jets right now. I like the running back combo that they have with Breece Hall and Michael Carter. Zach Wilson is back. Garrett Wilson's having himself a good year. Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, and Braxton Berrios. And then I'm sure I'm missing some other receivers as well. But they have a solid kind of offensive duo here, and their defense. I don't know. I need to look up at how's the Jets defense doing this year? Like
they are overall okay. They're very young. So like they make a good play, they make a bad play type of thing.
Yeah.
So they did get a few gifts last week from Kenny Pickett. I don't think that even if Teddy Bridgewater plays, I think that they'll have to work a little bit harder. I personally like the matchups on the outside. I think this is the first time that Ahmad Gardner and that secondary is going to see like some real speed in Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and Cedric Wilson. And also, too, one of my biggest things, Mike Gesicki is going to have a day against this defense because Pat Freiermuth, I think he had 8 catches for 90 to 100 yards and a touchdown against them last week. He just had a phenomenal week against this Jets defense. And then I also think that Miami will be able to run the ball fairly well against this defense as well. The front four is good. I still think the Jets are struggling at that linebacker position so slightly. And I think that's something that Miami will be able to take advantage of. This is one, if Xavier Howard doesn't play, and there's a few other like minor injuries that like people could possibly be inactive for, I think the Jets could win. This is going to be a really close game, though. I think both of these teams are on the rise. So
well, and also too, it's in New York. Anytime you have an underdog at home, it's definitely something to think about. And also too, because aren't the Jets? Aren't they 2-2?
Yeah, they're 2-2.
So like, so they're only a game back.
No, Dolphins are 3-1.
Yeah, they're 3-1.
Yeah.
So they've won some games. They've barely won their 2 games, I will say. But I think it's going to be close right now. I'm just leaning towards the Jets. And another thing as well, you also get Jalen Waddle has been a little banged up as well for an injury that he's been fighting through. So we'll just have to see. I just think that going on the road. And then just going back to the QB situation, when Tua was in, that Dolphins offense definitely was in sync, in rhythm. When Teddy Bridgewater came in, a lot of confusion, several delay games, several times they had to call timeouts.
It did get better as the game progressed. I think it was just like I think everybody was a little shaken up after the Tua thing, and I think that was some of it. And then it was like, all right, now we got to get Teddy up to speed. And then like as the game went on, it got better. But it definitely started out really rough. So.
Yeah, we'll have to see. It's going to be a good game. Definitely a game to keep our eye on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. You froze there for a second.
Okay, good.
Up next, let's get to your team here in an NFC South matchup: Atlanta Falcons versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This game is in Tampa, and this very well could be my easy pick of the week. However, Atlanta always seems to play Tampa Bay tough, and this Tampa Bay team is more susceptible than I think in years past. Not only is that offensive line injured, Tom Brady, I think, is having some off the field lovers quarrels, and I just don't know that this game is like as far of a reach, like as I think, or as far of a blowout as I think a lot of people think it is, unless Tom Brady just comes out there and takes his anger out on the Falcons, which could happen.
So, this game I think is going to say a lot about the Buccaneers. I don't really think it's going to say too much about the Falcons. The Falcons they're kind of one-dimensional offensively. I don't know the last time I ever said this, but they're actually seems like they're pretty good at running the ball. They've established a run in these past couple games. Definitely have struggled to throw the ball. I think part of that has to do with Mariota being a QB. Some of it maybe it's be pass blocking as well. But another thing also is they also just don't have as many receiver weapons. Like they do have Drake London, and they do have Kyle Pitts. But that really is it outside of those 2 guys. And so they definitely have to run the ball, which is something established doing. But I don't know what to say. I feel like if there definitely is a strength of the Buccaneers defense, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's definitely their front 7. I think it's stopping the run. I feel like you go back and look at the Chiefs stats, and because the Chiefs were running the ball decently well, but I feel like a lot of teams don't normally run the ball very well against the Bucs. And I don't think the Falcons are going to do that either. And if they can't run the ball against them, then they're not going to throw the ball against them. And as I said in last night's episode, I think the Buccaneers found something on offense.
Yeah.
Throwing the ball for sure. And also on top of that, I think they're going to be much more balanced. I also think they're going to be able to run Fournette a bunch. So
yeah,
I had the Bucs winning this one. The spread is 8 last I saw. I mean, maybe they'll lose by a touchdown, but probably not. I think it's going to be
I could see this game being like a 35-27, 35-24 game. I really could. Atlanta always plays them tough. So
yeah. Well, it's interesting too. It's actually a meaningful game. Both teams are tied for the lead right now in the division.
Yeah.
And so it feels like it's been forever since the Falcons have actually had to play a meaningful game. So the Bucs are going to win this one. Even if the Falcons win, that would say so much more about the Buccaneers, in my opinion, than what it would say about the Falcons. No matter what, if the Bucs destroy them, it's like, okay, we expected that. If the Falcons win, it's like, oh my gosh, are the Bucs really in trouble here? 5 games of the season. The Falcons, no matter what they do, I think everyone kind of knows who the Falcons are. They're better. They're improving. They're more exciting to watch than last year when they were just kind of like doing a pseudo rebuild. Now they're just like officially like, okay, we're rebuilding this thing. And so going to be fun to watch to see, because definitely a lot of the future guys I think are going to be auditioning. You have Cordell Patterson's on IR. So Tyler Algier is going to be getting him, and Caleb Huntley are going to be getting a lot of the carries, and it's going to be kind of doing this running back by committee situation. And they both ran the ball really well. I think both in total against the Browns ran for 130, 140 yards last week. So I don't know. I would love to be wrong. I would love to see them run for 400 yards and beat the Buccaneers. I think that would be great, but I'm just not seeing it. Just not seeing it.
But then up next is the Tennessee Titans going to the Washington Commanders. Tennessee seemed to have found a little bit of a rhythm on offense last week. And I think that's going to carry over on a weak Washington team. Carson Wentz had a good week 1 and has been atrocious since then. And for me, I think that defensive line is struggling a little bit without Chase Young. It's just not quite it's not clicking in Washington right now. In more than
also
one way.
Too, Jahan Dotson, I believe he has a bum hamstring now, so I don't know if he's even going to be playing. So they might be down just to Terry McLaurin.
Scary Terry.
Yeah, and Tennessee, what's funny? I don't think I've actually picked Tennessee to win any of the weeks. I know I had the Giants week 1, Bills obviously week 2. Who the Titans playing week 3? Who do they play week 3? I had Vegas to win, and then I had the Colts to win last week. Of course, this week I'm going to pick the Titans, and of course Washington's going to have
they're going to have the game
and win. But I was thinking about it too. It's past 2 years now we have said, Titans don't trust their passing game. They're too one-dimensional, and yet they just seem to find fair. But they just keep seeming to find a way to win,
But they haven't played anybody that really is like, damn, like they beat a good team. Like they got destroyed by Buffalo. And then it's like they looked terrible. Nobody wanted to win the Vegas game.
They didn't look good against Vegas.
So
but another thing though too, and this happened against Vegas and this happened against the Colts, but the Tennessee came out strong. Like they scored all their points. They did the same thing against the Jets. Actually, ironically, also did the same thing against the Bills, where they scored all their points in the first half. But that's more of a joke. And so I'm curious if like they come out explosive, and then it's like they just hang on. Let's get a big lead, and then let's try and run the ball, kill as much clock, and try and win the game. Not the prettiest way, and it works for them. It just seems like it works for them. It's not going to be a pretty game to watch because neither team is very sexy looking. But Tennessee is just going to be much more sound. I think they're going to they're going to win, especially too at offensive line. We always talk Taylor Lewan always gets hurt every year with Tennessee, and that offensive line seems to get better because everyone, and maybe it's just because the expectations are low because Taylor Lewan's one of the best left tackles in the league when healthy, but they always find a way to keep having Derrick Henry go and run for 100, 120 something yards, every week. So.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But I think Tennessee will pull it out. I think Derrick Henry will have a big day today on Sunday. I just think that offensive line is better than that defensive line, especially without Chase Young. So, but then up next, we're gonna stick in the AFC South with Houston Texans visiting the Jacksonville Jaguars. Who do you have coming out victorious in this one?
Jacksonville. They've impressed me a lot. Even against Philadelphia, they got up 14 points against Philadelphia, who I think a lot of people now think are maybe not the best team, but top 3 best team in the league. That they have some kind of exciting weapons. They have a good running back team with James Robinson and Travis Etienne. Trevor Lawrence is having a better year too. Christian Kirk has been doing a good job. Same thing with and him and Marvin Jones has been clicking. So, and then also then they're going up against Houston, who Houston is just they're definitely in a full rebuild mode. Jacksonville's going to come out on top on this one.
Yeah. This one, I like what Houston has going on. I think they're doing some things right. I like Nico Collins, Brandon Cooks. Is doing well. OJ Howard has actually been playing pretty well for them, and their rookie running back, Dameon Pierce. The offensive line looks to be improved. To me, that defense is just not where it needs to be at all. And I think Jacksonville's going to have a field day. Jacksonville's defense hasn't been – well, it has been good statistically, like in points wise. I do feel like they've given up a lot of rushing yards, but they have gone up against a few good rushing attacks in the Colts and the Eagles. So that's somewhat to be expected. But I just think Jacksonville's a better team, better offense. Yeah. It's at home. So yeah.
Yeah.
I think that is the last 1:00 game. And so now we're going to go into the 4:00 Eastern, 3:00 Central. San Francisco versus the Carolina Panthers. We also agree on this one. We both have San Francisco winning. I really liked what I saw from them. Deebo Samuel kind of came alive on Monday night. And I just think that the 49ers might be hitting a stride that, ironically, I don't think they would have be hitting right now if Trey Lance did get injured.
Well, what's funny too is they looked like the team last year that NFC Championship almost made it to the Super Bowl, which is just very funny. Just to think about, they're doing it now technically with their backup quarterback, who they are also paying like $15 million, $20 million for. So one of the most expensive backup quarterbacks. Another thing though, San Francisco is going to win this game. Carolina is really struggling on offense. Christian McCaffrey, I think, is playing, but maybe still a little banged up. But Baker Mayfield hasn't had the connection with Robbie Anderson or DJ Moore, their top 2 receivers. And also on top of that, I think I saw this statistic, and let me see if I still have it up. But it kind of blew my mind. I think, let me see here. Yes, it should be up here. But I just want to confirm it before I say it. Like Carolina, Matt Rule is the head coach, and he has had a lot of games that he has coached and been with the Panthers now for several seasons. And let me find it here. Let me find it. Oh, where is it? I keep passing it. I saw something. I think during his tenure, the Panthers, when the opponents score more than 17 points, they are 1-26. They are 1-26. I need to see if I can find.
He's an offensive coach. He's the Baylor guy.
Well, no. When the opposing team scores more than 7.
But what I'm saying is he should be able to score points in an NFL game, and he can't beat a team that scores more than 17. That's not even a touchdown a quarter.
Yeah,
to beat.
We have seen that though as well with these great college offensive minded coaches, and they don't always. And obviously, not every coach pans out, but the one that's coming to my mind is Steve Sarkisian when he came over to Atlanta for a season. Offensively, and he's this great offensive mind. But sometimes those offensive schemes only work in college. They don't work. They don't translate over to the NFL, and we're starting to see that here in Carolina. I think one of the things, if there was something that I would really focus on with Matt Rule that he struggled on, it seems like while he's been there, they have not had a good offensive line ever. And if you're an offensive-minded coach, you should understand the importance on how important it is to have an offensive line, and they don't have that. You have Christian McCaffrey, who is their number one guy, but he can't really get anything running because he keeps getting hit.
Yeah,
quarterbacks don't have time. How many quarterbacks have they had now during his tenure? Teddy Bridgewater, Sam
Darnold, Baker.
Let's shoot. That's 4. Has he been there for 4 seasons? So that's a quarterback a season.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's right.
Let me see if I can find that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the stats. Right? I'll have to double check.
But okay, after what San Francisco did on Monday night, I just think that front 7 is going to dominate the game. I don't see any way that Baker Mayfield is going to have more than 2.5 or 3 seconds to throw a football down the field. Christian McCaffrey is going to be smothered, and frankly, like DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson have not had good years. They've been struggling to get separation. Granted, their confidence is probably really low because I think Baker's thrown less than 60% completion right now, which in today's NFL, that's really bad. Like you should be throwing at least 63 to 65.
Sometimes more. Yeah.
So it's an interesting development there in Carolina. I think Matt Rule might be on the chop block at the end of the season. Because I think like you said, he's been there 4 years. So, I think Tyler froze again. Yeah, you can see the X on the Wi-Fi. We'll wait for him to come back. If you are watching, please go ahead and leave a comment. We'd love to respond to you guys as we go through these games. Where is he? Oh, all right. We're going to take a brief intermission here. Let's see if I can... Oh, okay. Never mind. He's back.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No. You're good. You're good.
Did you hear my prediction, or did I cut out immediately, like as I said it?
San Francisco was your prediction.
Oh, no. But I have another prediction. I think that this is going to be Matt Rule's last game as the Carolina Panthers coach. I think it's going to be so abysmal. I think they're just going to be like, let's just cut it now, and let's just see what happens. Let's get a new mind in there. He's been in the hot seat now. I feel like for about a year and a half, at least going back to at least before last season.
Yeah, they haven't even been close to making the playoffs since he's been there. So
no, and so I think this is going to be Matt Rule's last game. I think the 49ers are going to continue that I said. I think that they're going to put up 17 points. That is the 49ers team that we're used to seeing them play when they went to the Super Bowl, when they made it to the NFC Championship last year. just you're right, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and then even then the running game doesn't matter who the running back is, but they're gonna have a good running game. Just goes to show how good an offensive line needs to be. So Niners going to win this one, and Matt Rule is going to be looking for a new job, I think, after this Sunday.
Yeah. Speaking of people who I think might be looking for a new job relatively soon, we have the Dallas Cowboys going to the Los Angeles Rams. And man, am I feeling the rush. I have the Dallas Cowboys winning this game, not because of Cooper Rush, but you have the Los Angeles Rams. What was your thought process kind of behind picking the Rams for this one?
Yeah, so for me, obviously we saw what happened on Monday night. Last night, yeah. And one thing as well, yes, Cooper Rush is undefeated during this time. But if you go back and you look at the teams that who did the Cowboys play last week? It was Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they played the Giants the week before that. Then they played a team that was still definitely getting their sea legs. In each of those games, I think they've only put up 20 points, 23 points or something like that. And they're going up against offenses that have not been playing well or are not good or have not been playing well at that time. I'm talking about Cincinnati at that point. Los Angeles still, obviously, San Francisco has had their number the past couple of seasons. Yes, they beat them in the playoffs, barely. But the past couple of regular seasons, San Francisco just has their number. They match up well against them. And I don't think the Cowboys have, especially with a lot of this personnel, have as of late. I still think that they're going to be able to outplay Cooper Rush and the Cowboys. I think that they're going to be able to stop the run. The Cowboys have not been running the ball here. Let me look this up. So offensively, the Cowboys are rushing yards per game. Dallas is in the lower half of running yards per game at 104. And passing, they're not too much better passing either. A lot of it is through game management, and I think that this the Rams offense is going to be able to kind of outscore this Dallas offense essentially. So I just think that it might turn into a shootout, and I don't think Dallas will be able to keep up.
So my big thing is the Rams have this like great offense, right? It has really struggled this season. 10, they put up 31 against the Falcons, 20 and then 9 last week, which I think averages to be 51, 61, 70 divided by 4, less than 20 points a game.
Yeah. So
for me, when the Rams have really struggled is when teams get in Matthew Stafford's face. Then something I've actually never really seen him do before is he actually really started to freak out under pressure in that 49ers game. And Dallas right now is leading the league in sacks.
Yeah.
And for me, I think that defense is very opportunistic. They actually, to me, are very similar to San Francisco. Really fast linebackers, good pass rush, an opportunistic secondary that has good hands. And I just think that they match up really well. And on the opposite side, Jalen Ramsey has sucked this year.
Yeah.
And they really rely on Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald to carry their weight and then some. And both of those guys, Aaron Donald gets triple teamed almost every play. So that is excusable because they have nobody else in that defensive line. Jalen Ramsey is supposed to be the best corner in the league, and they're paying him like it. And he is not even in the top 10 in coverage grades by PFF.
Yeah. And that's a great point too.
Yeah. So for me, even though the Cowboys don't have I CeeDee Lamb as a really good receiver. He's not a Devontae Adams. He's not a Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Michael Gallup came back last week and looked good. I think they just have a good array of weapons. And I really like what Kellen Moore's done with that Dallas offense. And I think this Cowboys defense is what's going to win them the game. I think it's going to be a 24-14, 24-17 type of game. So,
I just think going back and it's and Micah Parsons having a year, as you said, they're going to be able to get after the quarterback. I just think the Rams are just going to pull this one out. I believe that they're going to be able to put up some points. Cooper Kupp's still the best cornerback in the league. Sorry, not cornerback, receiver in the league. He's going to be going up against Trayvon Diggs, but I think he's going to win a majority of those matchups. I think they're going to want to get the ball out of Matt Stafford's hand. So a lot of screen passes is going to open up to Allen Robinson as well. It's Cowboys could obviously win this one. It's definitely going to be a lot closer game than some of the other ones that we have talked about and will talk about here. Still that we have left to go, but I just think the Rams are going to win this one at home, and I think Cooper Rush is going to have a little bit difficult. This is going to be, I still think, a better defense, one of the better defenses that he has played against. 3 games that he has played, especially against Cincinnati when they were not the Cincinnati team that we are accustomed or expect to see. If that makes sense. Yeah. So going up against the Giants, Washington last week, putting up some numbers. I don't think that's saying too much about these teams. So,
I think this is going to be a really close game. I just really like Dallas's pass rush against Matt Stafford, and in the 2 games that they have lost, the Buffalo and 49ers game, that was the recipe. Was you get in Matt Stafford's face, he freaks out, and then you get turnovers. And Dallas right now, I think, is top 5 in turnovers as well. So
that's good. That's a good point too.
So the last 4:00 game or 3 p.m. Central is the Philadelphia Eagles going to Arizona. This is, in my opinion, going to be borderline assault. I think Philadelphia is, I don't want to say far and away the most physical team in the NFL, but that offensive and defensive line are monstrous. And it's scary for me to think about like what they could do to a team like Arizona, who is very soft in the trenches. And I hope Kyler Murray stretches out before the game because he's going to be doing a lot of running.
He's going to be running. What is, let me pull up, how many rushing yards has Arizona allowed this year?
Arizona give up the 100-yard game to Josh?
No,
Jacobs?
Actually, they've given up only 87 rushing yards to per game. Yeah. No, that was Denver that gave up that many rushing yards. Now, passing yards, they are a little bit worse, 255.8 per game. So, and still that being said, though, I'm trying to think of teams that Arizona's played against: the Rams, Raiders. I think have they also played against the Seahawks as well? No. Either way, though, this Philadelphia team is, I think this on paper should be a close game, but I think Philadelphia is better coached. I think they have better talent, and they are much more balanced on both sides of the ball. They're going to be able to run the ball so much, and then when they do that, it's going to open up the receiving capabilities of A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and Quez Watkins. And I mean, they just have so many weapons, and Miles Sanders is having a great year. But even then, when then you have Kenneth Gainwell and Boston. Is it Boston Scott or Brian Scott?
Yeah, Boston Scott.
And so then you have them when they come in, those are still legit running backs also. So it's just a never ending, just kind of constantly coming at you, especially then like with what you said, where they are going to win in the trenches a lot. So I think Philadelphia is going to win this one. I mean, maybe the Cardinals can upset it, but I just don't believe that that's going to happen. I believe Philadelphia is going to come in there. They're going to do what they do, be able to run the ball. Jalen Hurts has been having a really good year. He has a lot of versatility, or he allows for a lot of versatility in the run game. They do a lot of RPOs, the ball out quickly to A.J. Brown. And another thing too, A.J. Brown, he's going essentially to a similar system that he had in Tennessee, where the offense was played through the run game, through a lot of play actions, and that's exactly what made him great. Is he's this big physical receiver he's gonna do that 10-yard in the field, and you're gonna throw it to him, and he's gonna go up there and get it because he's just a freak athlete. He's huge. He's got a big wingspan, so he fits super well into that system because that's what he already came from, and they're gonna be able to utilize that against the Cardinals. And I just don't think it's gonna be a contest.
Yeah. Also, too, a lot of people don't underestimate AJ Brown's ability to run after catch, because he's honestly such a good route runner that like people don't view him as like a Debo guy that like if you get him the ball in the middle of the field with space, like he can make a guy miss, run through some tackles. Like he can do those things. Maybe not to the level of Debo, but like he can do a lot of those things. And I just really like what they have up in Philadelphia right now. Jalen Hurts is having a great season. I just like what's going on up there. So yeah. All right, let's get into the night games here really quick. So Sunday night, this is a big matchup for the AFC North. Cincinnati Bengals are traveling to Baltimore for Sunday Night Football. I have an interesting take on this game. And I want to hear what you think. Well, I guess I'll just go ahead and
go. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
I think all of our viewer knows my opinion. So
yeah, that's very fair. The Cincinnati Bengals match up so well against the Baltimore Ravens. I think they hit them in all of their weak spots. The Baltimore Ravens like to play this off zone, and Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd just absolutely dominate this game. They dominated at both games last year, and I really think that Cincinnati is going to blow this game wide open. Last year, very similar teams, except Cincinnati now has a better offensive line. The score for the two games was 82-38. It was 41-17 and 41-21 were the scores last year. And I think it's going to be a very similar game. I think Baltimore is very banged up both physically and mentally, whereas I think Cincinnati's starting to hit their stride. I really like this matchup for Cincinnati.
Yeah. Well, especially to watching last Thursday night's game, huge step forward for that Cincinnati offensive line, especially going up against that Miami defense, who, I need to double check correctly, but I thought that they said this I thought Kirk Herbstreit said this, but Miami does the most amount of blitzing than any other defense.
They did that in 2021 so far. Like they had only blitzed like 8 times so far in 2022.
Miami does?
Yeah. They because Brian Flores was a defensive coordinator last year. Well, he's head coach / defensive coordinator, and he is a very blitz aggressive person, or like scheme wise.
I would need to double check that. I remember that, and it's even last week Miami did a lot of like man-on-man cover zero coverages, and then they sent the other guys. So they would send 5 guys. So I guess it depends on what you like define as a blitz. Like I guess if you have 5 guys line up, then that's not a blitz. But
anything more than 4 is considered a blitz. But
okay, so I thought they sent a lot of 5-guy rushes, and then they had a lot of man-on-man, maybe 1 deep, to cover. But like look at T. Higgins' touchdown that he had against Miami. That was man-on-man coverage, no 1 deep, and Cincinnati was able to stop the rush, stop the blitz just long enough so Joe Burrow could throw the ball while T. Higgins got around Xavier Howard for the touchdown. But still, the Bengals had a solid performance last week against Miami, and I think that they are going to need that, and they're going to be able to build off of that going against this Baltimore team, especially then also to adding on then what you said is the secondary for Baltimore is not good. They give up a lot of points. They where they succeed is in that front 7, but then their back 4 make a lot of mistakes and give up a lot of points. And with this offensive line now getting better, They know that they're going to have to cover those 3 receivers, so they won't be able to blitz nearly as much, which is then going to open up the run game for Joe Mixon. And it's just a recipe. It's just not a good recipe for Baltimore. And that's just defensively. Offensively, the weakness for the Bengals still is, and luckily also the weakness of Baltimore is their passing game. Yes, they Rashad Bateman, not as much this year, yes, but Mark Andrews is still their number one guy. Rashad Bateman his way into being his number one receiver. I think that he is the number one receiver, but just still growing and still maturing.
He is Devin Duvernay, best receiver. He's not a number one receiver.
Yes. Yes. So that definitely benefits Cincinnati. And if Cincinnati's strength is going to be their front 4, their front 7. So that's going to then stop the run. They can contain the run, which is the best part of Baltimore's entire game, both offensive and defensive. So then when you just wrapping up and finishing up what you're saying, the Bengals' strengths, the Bengals' weaknesses also then just happen to be Baltimore's weaknesses on the other side of the ball as well. So hugely benefits the Bengals, and they're going to be able to put up so many more points. I agree. I think it is going to be, I don't know if they'll put up 30-41 because we haven't seen them do that this year. I do think that it's going to be, I think they're going to crack the 30s for the first time.
Yeah. I just like Cincinnati in this matchup. I just think they have their number kind of the same way that San Francisco has the Rams number. So that for me is the big reasons why. And then last game of the week, let's do the Las Vegas Raiders traveling to the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes in back-to-back primetime matchups. This one is also, I think, a pretty easy one to pick. Kansas City looks really good. They are spreading the ball around more than they have been in years past.
Yeah.
They look harder to cover. I don't know what it is. The receivers are much worse.
So last year, like Tyreek Hill was such a threat, but he got so many passes. It was either him or Travis Kelce. Now you have Travis Kelce, Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Sky Moore. Then you still have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of the backfield. Mecole Hardman, who I forgot. Byron Pringle's still not there, is he? No, he's gone.
No, he's gone. And so is Demarcus Robinson. But then they also have, it's like Noah
Watson. So yeah. Like if you go and look at their bet sheets from last week, Travis Kelce, I think, had the most receiving yards. He definitely had the most catches. He got targeted the most. But he only got targeted the most by 1 or 2. Then you have multiple guys with 4 or 5 targets. It's like they are able to spread the ball around so much. This Buccaneers defense is a solid defense. Like I would say
it was the number one scoring defense in football until last week, I think.
Yeah, well, they're not.
They allowed the few. Yeah, they give up.
Okay, but it was top 10 defense, and they just obliterated them. I mean, played a nearly flawless game. They had 2 plays that they would want back that we talked about last night. And now they're going to be going up against a Raiders defense, which is not in the top half. Which is not good. At home, in Arrowhead, it is going to be hype. The Raiders look like they are building off. They had a good game last week against the Broncos, particularly actually where they ran the ball really well. Josh Jacobs had his best ever rushing game ever. So maybe they can build off of that. I just don't think that they're going to be able to with Kansas City. I think Kansas City is just going to be able to – they're going to be able to put up 41 points again. Now, the Raiders will probably put up 24, I would say. But, I just think the Chiefs are going to continue to go around and spread out because it's like, how do you stop – let's say you cover their number 1, 2, and 3 receivers. Okay, well, now you still have to cover that 4th guy. And if you somehow cover that guy, no one's covering – at that point, no one's covering Mahomes. And we saw Mahomes is able to make – is able to make gold out of nothing, so he is so athletic. He's such a game changer. So I just don't know how the Raiders are going to be able to stop this offense.
No, I don't know either. To me, stopping this offense is impossible. I think you might be able to delay it. You might be able to make them have to force a few things, but I don't know if like you'll ever be able to like shut down this offense.
The only way the way you'd have to get, and we saw a little bit with the Chargers, but the way that you slow this offense down is you have to get a pass rush with
4 guys,
with 4 or less guys. So then it's more guys that can go out, that can go and cover the receivers. And on top of that, though, but then you have to be able to then contain Patrick Mahomes to where he doesn't get outside the tackle box. Because once when that happens, or if you have to rush 5 guys, then you're screwed because they're going to be able to see it coming. They can get the ball out quickly, and then you don't have the numbers that you need to have if you only rush 4, so to say, to go and try and tackle this guy. So it is such a mismatch and so difficult for these defenses, and especially if you're the Raiders defense, I just don't see how they're going to be able to stop them, especially at home, prime time. It's just, I don't think it's for them.
No. Yeah, I'm definitely going with Kansas City here. This is my least likely to switch of the week. So
I don't know. I'm not switching Buffalo. That to me, I think, is my least likely.
Yeah,
I'm not switching Buffalo. I don't see how Kenny Pickett's going to be able to beat Buffalo.
Well, to be fair, they did it last year in week 1. They came out and stunned Buffalo with pretty much just the run game. I think Ben Roethlisberger only had like 140 passing yards. He just didn't have any interceptions, they didn't have any turnovers or anything.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But anyways,
before we go, any comments?
We do not have any comments.
That's okay.
So
Mom didn't turn on today, I guess.
Yeah. But
tune in.
Anyways, I think that's going to wrap up this episode of the Tracy Take. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Tyler and I, we go live every Monday and Tuesday to talk about football. So if you want to join our community, we would very much appreciate that. Hit that bell notification so we can ping you guys every time we go live, and we will see you next time.